I am going to bring Rowan Hick into the show.
Hi, Rowan.
Guys and girls around the world. So I'm Rowan Hick, and this is my beast.
Well, first off, before we even get into that, I'd like to identify and some of our guest panelists today. We've got, first off, Ida Tristan of Fraser Sports Cars, and she's going to be with us to help fill in some of the blanks because there's a whole host of things that we don't know and you do know, and you at least speak Fraser, and that's a really good thing.
Hi, Ida.
Thank you, Jim. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well,
absolutely, no problem.
Great pleasure. Also, in the show is Carey Marsh, who also is a Fraser owner, and he's got a bit of a story about the backstory on his car. And of course, now we're going to bring in John.
I was going to say, Carey, you're in New Zealand, yeah?
Yeah.
My sister lives there. I've got an elder sister. She did live in Christchurch. She's moved about, after the earthquake, she's moved about, I think, 30 miles away, I think she said. So she sends me pictures of the weather over there, and I'm just so jealous at the moment.
Well, I'm just going to bring myself into the picture, or bring the amazing Fraser into the picture, and tell you that it's a dreary and almost damp dark day in Vancouver, British Columbia. We're looking forward to a high today of a balmy 7 degrees Celsius. Fill in the blanks.
-3 in Evesham here at the moment, and it's dark.
And please tell us what it's like in New Zealand right now. What are we looking at?
No, don't.
23, sunny.
Yeah, 21 degrees and sunny.
And at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's lovely.
I was going to say, you're not making my day any better.
So we are looking at the most amazing car that I have had the opportunity to look at in pictures in quite some time. Could you please tell us a bit about how you came to own it, Rowan? And tell me about some of the goodies you've got in it.
Cool. All right. Yeah, that's high praise. Okay, so this is a Fraser Car's Special Edition. It was 99.99% built by the Fraser factory. I think I did some token riveting, but that was about it. So it started off, I think, about 2011, 2012, visited the factory because I decided I was going to move home to New Zealand from Canada. Fraser Car's located in Auckland, and I'd wanted one since I was a little boy. So commissioned the car and went a little bit overboard.
Is there such a thing, Rowan?
I was going to say, we all end up doing that. I had to hide car parts from my missus.
Yep. So I had a history of forced induction cars, being a young lad, like my turbo cars.
Is that like turbo or ram air or?
Yeah, so this is actually a supercharged Honda.
Supercharged.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll pull the bonnet off in a second.
Yeah. Well, look at that. Is that the K20?
Yes, it's proper. Fraser Cars had an actual K20 from, I think it was Integra, DC Type R, sitting in their factory. That was an abandoned project many years ago, and I was like, right, well, that sounds good.
Yeah. So strong engines, really strong engines.
Very strong engines.
A fairly tall engine too, and it's not sitting proud of the bonnet, and that's amazing.
Yeah, well, we'll show some of the tricks of how it managed to fit. What you can't see on the camera is how low the car is. It's actually got a consumable item, which is the skid plate. Gets replaced every 4 or 5 years. So yeah, Scott and Sump.
We'll come on to it, but yeah, Short and Sump and the usual.
Yeah. It was dry sumped.
Dry sump.
Yeah.
try something. A couple other tricks, which we'll show when we pull a bonnet off.
We definitely, definitely show us under the bonnet before you go.
yeah. Don't worry. We've got time. We're only 3 minutes in. So Scott and Ida on the call, own Fraser Cars, and I had many backwards and forwards phone calls with Scott about the engine from Canada. And he talked me into doing a supercharged engine because of the linearity of the throttle response. It basically takes.
If you go turbo route, you can get quite a bit of lag.
Yeah. So I've been in. Actually, subsequent to getting this built, I went in 3S GTE Fraser, which had a turbo on it, and they roughly put out the same power figures, but the delivery is completely different.
Yeah,
and
so quite a flatter power curve as well. Whereas turbo, boom, certainly boom, it's off.
You're on.
Supercharged is a lot smoother.
Yeah, and you'll see that on the dyno graph actually through in the 7-spot group. Yeah, so you can see it sort of climbs to the moon. Basically, from about 1900, 2000, you can just put your foot down and she starts going, and going all the way to
nice smooth delivery. Yeah,
I think the red line's at 7600 RPM, just to be safe. Because we never changed the compression on it, so it's running either 11.2 or 11.5 to 1. So
that's obviously higher than standard, yeah.
No, that's a standard Type R engine is a high compression engine, and then with Roadtrax, so we use what's called a C3094, which is the designation of the Roadtrax superchargers. So they've got 3 or 4 different sizes, and it's the baby one.
Yeah.
And even a baby one, it puts out 10.5 pounds of boost at redline. So there's a lot going on in there. I think we were almost all surprised at how much power it did end up putting out at 330-ish at the wheels.
330 at the wheels. Wow.
Yeah.
It equates to about, depending on whose calculations you take, about 375 at the crank. And the car weighs, and we actually weighed it the other day down here. We've got mates at the workshop, so we put it on some corner scales, and it's 675 kilos just straight off the road.
That is going to fly. Well, you know it does. That would. Yeah, I would end up putting it through a hedge. My driving skills are okay. I think on our car, we're about 362 brake horsepower per ton at the rear. And that's enough for me. With my driving skills, that's enough for me. But that is really going to go.
Yeah. So, so what I'll do is I'll take the bonnet off and we'll go and have a bit of a talk around all the bits, because it's not just the engine, although the headlining thing is the engine. And it is a spectacular build.
It does look stunning, and I like it in that colour as well.
Fabulous color.
Yeah, it's a beautiful color. Yeah, I think the great thing about these cars, although they go and go and go, they also stop equally fast. So yeah, which is great. So their response to going, to stopping, to steering is just fabulous. So I think that's what makes them so much fun.
We've got quite a small steering wheel on ours as well, but slightest little thing, whoa, it just goes. There's no weight, there's no inertia in it. It's just absolutely fantastic.
The first time I drove mine, it was a bit scary. It felt like you're driving on marbles or ice all the time. And you just sort of think left or think. It was like the closest thing to being on a motorbike. It's just a four-wheel motorbike.
That's right. Yeah.
You
have to drive them like that anyway.
Yeah,
and the good thing is the cornering.
I've been out on the road. I can't get him insurance until he's 25 or 23, which he will be this year. But on a private track, and I just said, go for it, be sensible. I said, but don't overreact to the steering. That the car will find its own way down the road.
They corner so well; it's incredible. I went for a run with the with another group of friends. They've all got Cobras, and we were driving fairly briskly on roads that are now you're only allowed to do 80 k's, but we're doing well above that. And when we got to the pub, they said, "Oh, your brake lights aren't working." I said, "Oh no, I'm sure they're fine. Everything's good." No, your brake lights aren't working. So I got in, pressed the pedal, brake lights are working. Just at the speed that we were going, I didn't need to use the brakes, but all the Cobras were. And the funny thing is, there was a Porsche and a Ferrari, and they were quite annoyed that I wasn't using brakes and they were.
I'm intrigued. I'm going to jump in and ask a question. It's something I asked before we got going, but the exhaust pipes that you've got there, I've got glass. Mine are glass powder, or glass coated. Are those glass coated as well?
It's a ceramic.
You've got wrap on the headers.
Yeah. So part of and I'll explain all this that's going on in the air. Yeah, so these are what's called HPC, which is a local supplier of ceramic coatings. It's their own particular type of coating. It's not a ceramic. It's just their standard high temp coating. And it doesn't really withstand the heat of what's coming out of here.
Yeah,
so
no, for sure.
Being a supercharged engine, you're effectively, I don't know, 2/3 more air volume that's coming out, and it's not cooling down anywhere. So that got super hot, and we ended up the alternator. So basically, I'll just kind of have to know the whole story. So under there is the supercharger. You can't quite see it. It's pretty small, and it runs up through this into the charge cooler, and so that's water to air charge cooler. So we've got 2 radiators double stacked in here. So
I was going to say, I noticed those on the front. Yeah.
So the first one for the cooling, second one for the charge cooler. Because of, and this car has been all about hip bone and leg bone problems. So hip bone's connected to the leg bone, and then you get this other problem, this other problem, this other problem. So because of the Rotrex going down there, that's normally where the alternators sit on these engines.
You had to
move the alternator over, but it was too big, so we threw on a tiny little alternator.
Yep.
And also the water pump outlets down in there. So we had to ditch the water pump. So we've got an electric Davies water pump under there. Sure.
Yeah.
And then, because the alternator is so close to number 1, and you can see now this wasn't here originally. We went through 2 or 3 alternators at racetrack, because basically, once you're on the back straight and the heat's coming off here, it was killing the alternators. But this one's lasted now for, I don't know, what are we, 8 years, 9 years? So that's a good one.
Yeah.
And of course, so you're right, Jim, the engines, the K20s are super tall. And if you're very astute and you know what a K20 looks like, you'll notice there's something missing here. Normally there's an oil filler cap. But because we're dry sumps, we don't need that.
I was going to say, to the dry sump, Yeah.
So the cam cover is actually 15 or 20 mil shorter. So the factory shortened the cam cover, re-welded it all.
That's how you managed to squeeze it under the bonnet. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So the exhaust system, because you all like to talk about the exhaust system. So we started. That's not the original.
Is that 4 into 2 into 1? Or is it, I didn't.
It's a 4 into 1.
4 into 1. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
And then there's been a bit of an evolution of silencers. So the first one, I think, after the first racetrack outing, it burnt all the packing out. So it was at 4,500 at a static noise test. It was 120 decibels.
Wow! You will not get away with that in any UK track.
No. Oh, sorry. we changed over to what's called these Adrenaline R silencers. So they're massive, that's 800 mil, huge. And we're running a 3-inch side exit, which is great fun, but still quite terrifyingly loud. And you get flames out the side, which is awesome. But so we ended up.
An exhaust outlet, is that underneath the car?
Yeah. So just to get
going through to the back.
Yeah, just to get the sound down.
Yeah, bit like the Caterhams.
Yeah, because literally it's just too loud. It is absolutely too loud, and that's a notorious problem for supercharging one of these engines. Is everybody who's done it talks about how loud they are afterwards. It's just next level.
I was going to say, I guess it's just the whine from it, but then also the induction roar.
No, it's neither.
It's the bleeding ears.
Yeah, so so those superchargers are centrifugal, so they don't actually create much noise. But it's just the sheer, because each exhaust pulse that's coming out of the engine, compared to a normal 2-liter Honda, you're effectively throwing in 2/3 the amount of pressure into that exhaust pulse. So the exhaust pulse itself has got a lot more energy than a normal 2-liter. It's just the sheer volume of the exhaust pulses coming out is what causes the sound. Whereas if you were to go through
way higher, yeah.
So if you were to go through a turbocharger, because of the way the turbos work, the impellers or blades kind of effectively chop up the sound and disperse the sound waves, and they sound a lot more muffled. Superchargers are just ridiculously loud. Ridiculously loud. But it's not all about the engine. Well, it's not all about the engine. So we were talking about handling before.
Yeah.
So if you're very astute, you'll notice there's no shocks there. And that's because it runs...
it's all cantilevered. Look at that. And how the heck did you squeeze that all in there, Ida? That's amazing.
Got to make it look pretty. Got to make it fit.
So it's an incredible pushrod design. So the shocks and springs are vertically down in the center.
So the vertical. Okay, yeah.
So it reduces...
was that your design, or was that from Fraser?
No, that's Fraser's. No, this is all Fraser's. This is all Fraser's.
Yeah.
So it's
I know people have done it themselves, but working out all the angles and getting it right, you've got to know what you're doing. Yeah, but that looks fantastic.
Yeah, and so what that means is it reduces your unsprung weight on the wheels, so the wheels can react faster. So that's very cool. What you can't see, going around to the back, is it's running the Dion setup. So
it is the Dion, okay.
Yeah, so there's your diff in the center. There's a kind of arm behind into these end plates, and they kind of track up and down. So kind of same theory, try to reduce the unsprung weight.
And the tube runs just forward or just aft of the tank?
Yeah, just kind of, I think it's just forward of the tank. So,
and what limited slip? Have you got a limited slip diff in the back, or?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So it's running a MX-5 LSD, the beefier version, but because, and again, this is a hip bump.
They should be good for the power you're putting out there as well. Yeah, good diffs.
Yeah. So the dry sump tank and surge pots in the back, so we actually run the oil lines up through the center of the car. And then on the other side, in the tank itself, the tank is split in, it's got like a chunk kind of welded off on one side, and that's where the fuel surge system is, the swirl pot. So we don't get any fueling issues with it. But what it means is
baffled tank, and then obviously, as you say, a surge pot. Yeah.
And just about enough room for a lunch pail.
Yeah.
So he's got to take lunch off for a picnic.
So I mean, it's kind of how the boys managed to fit everything in. Is just every ounce of usable space. But by the same token, I didn't want a car that was just so race car that was uncomfortable. So
well, that's what I was about to say. That interior is unbelievable.
Those seats look nice. We've got fiberglass seats in ours with it's about 5mm padding that we had specially made, but those seats look really comfortable. Ours are okay. Those are not great on a massive long journey, but they look really nice.
And can I ask you a dumb question? I mean, clearly those are suited, tailored to your specific dimensions. Did you have your footwell or your pedal set measured for your own length?
Yeah, so when you get one of these done and you want these particular types of seats, so this is an option that Frasers do. You go in and you get fitted, so the trimmer sits there.
It's tailor-made. It's tailor-made. Yeah.
Yep. So you've got it for life. You can't sell it. So which is quite a weird thing because you're like, oh, I'm sure this is okay because I'm kind of committing to doing all of this here. But it worked out really, really well. So the passenger side is a bit squeezed over though, and that depends on the gearbox you use. This uses a Toyota W55, which is super strong. Mm-hmm. I'm quote unquote hopefully never going to have any gearbox issues. So probably about and with Frasers you can choose basically whatever you want. You kind of go backwards and forwards and go, okay, well this is the dash I want, and there's a switch gear, and I'm going to end up.
Your dash layout is very, very tidy. Is that a aim dash that you're using, or what we call one in the UK, like digital?
Yeah. Although I'm pretty dark on them because these original MXLs actually have some bugs with them, which is quite surprising. So like my one, the odometer just randomly jumps up 1,000 Ks. So I don't know how many Ks this vehicle's.
That's the way you're driving it.
It's got the usual stuff like removable wheel. But I am going to end up changing this to digital analogs gauges because I just find it's either the late model, the later AIMs or Motex, which are much clearer displays, or analogs. So I'm probably going to change.
Absolutely amazing.
Super fun, and you drive around in the thing, and everybody's looking at you, and it's a bit serious for the road. They're looking at you more. They're always looking at you. I didn't really expect that when I got it. Like how many people were looking at you. So.
But in a friendly way, isn't it, Rowan? They look at you in a friendly way, as opposed to in a.
As opposed to you, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring Carey into the picture just for a moment. Carey, can you tell us or at least tell us what you see as the difference between that iteration of the Fraser and yours?
They're completely different cars. Just in power, I've got a MX-5 1800 with Gen V throttle bodies, the BP4W motor, which apparently is slightly better if you're having an MX-5 motor. But mine puts out 133 horsepower at the wheels. So just performance is completely different right from the start.
But it's still fun, of course. And do you use it on the track as well?
Pardon?
Do you use it on the track as well?
I have done. Been using it more for touring, really. We've done 2 trips around the South Island, 2 weeks at a time, which is quite interesting in a car that size with all your luggage. And there's another trip coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. We're going down to Napier for a week because there's an Art Deco festival down there. So there'll be myself and a whole lot of Cobras again, and a couple of GT40s. We'll head down there. but the car is completely different. Mine's probably more a touring car. Escort axle with a Quaife ATB limited slip diff.
Oh yeah.
It's not as performance oriented. Spec shocks sitting on the outside.
Yeah,
it's just a completely different chassis, different car.
And how old would yours car be?
Well, I've had it on the road. Well, I had it about 5 years now. It took me 2 years to put it together. But in putting it together, I bolted the big bits in, and then got the professionals at Fraser's to do all the hard bits. I put the wiring together, and then was really pleased when it took Pete just a couple of hours to check that I'd done it all properly. I did all the brake lines, and then they needed to redo
don't
some
talk
of them.
to me and Jim about wiring. I'm absolutely clueless.
A lot of cars come back at that stage.
Yeah,
I started
absolutely.
the wiring. Leave it to you.
Yeah.
Well, this is the perfect segue to bring Ida back in, because I want to ask you, when a person purchases a Fraser, is there any self-build options available?
Absolutely. So you can do everything yourself you want. We do all the engineering and obviously manufacturing and engineering to make sure everything's just right, and it's pretty much a bolt together exercise.
Oh, very cool.
I think you were saying you can export kits as well anywhere in
Yes, we do.
world?
We've got cars, Frasers in Australia, and a lot of Frasers in Japan.
Yeah, that's what.
And in America.
Yeah, I know that we have at least one Fraser owner from Japan, a lovely lady. She's part of our group, and she absolutely loves it. She absolutely loves it. Absolutely. I'm going to bring Rowan back in.
Like the demonstrator that I drove first is a 1.64 AGE, and that's super fun, and but compared to your big twin turbo JDM cars that I had before, like they just don't quite have that same level of acceleration. And so I went, okay, I want something really quick. And didn't really there's not a lot of things that you go on that will be quicker than this in terms of power to weight. So it's quite I think the first month after I got it, like every time you were getting in it and you're just about shaking getting out of the car. And now I'm used to it, I'm fine. But you take other people and they get out and their hands are just doing this after getting in the car. Like, what just happened? But it's especially on the slicks, semi slicks, you have to be quite careful. Once the tires go off, then it becomes a pretty big handful. But
are they right in the wet as well, semi slicks, or?
I don't go out in the wet in this.
So most of the 7-tone. I know we don't, but yeah.
Yeah, so this is running what's called Nankang AR1s, which are it's Toyo stock.
Good tires.
Yeah, what else can I tell you? So like point to point, my GR Yaris would be like, if you're unfamiliar with the roads, you'd probably be faster on the GR Yaris. This you'd have, if you knew the roads and put some brake pills on, then this would be faster, absolutely faster. Yeah. And quite frightening getting there, in a good way.
A very, very good way.
Yeah. An enjoyable way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's always enjoyable as long as the back is not where the front should be.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like everybody thinks that you just have wheel spin in all three gears, and like once everything's up to temperature, you'll get some wheel spin in first gear, and you might get it in second gear depending on the surface. Just on a straight line, obviously corners a bit different. So once they're hot, depending on the surface, you're pretty good. But once they're cold, or the cold surfaces, and there's one person who shall remain nameless, and Ida and Carey will probably laugh when I talk about it. There's one person who's got a turbo-powered Fraser of a particular engine, of a particular horsepower, and had a moment at over 200 Ks, and prompted the car away for a long while. You know, so you got to be careful about road temperatures and tire temperatures, because they do make a massive difference to grip levels.
I think this is what I say to my boys as well. When I drive mine, obviously I've got my sons in it. I do drive it sensibly. I know my driving limit skills. I have had people pull up with what we call lowered saxo cars and the performance boys. I've had them pull up to me at lights and start revving their engine. I just look at my sons, I start revving back, and then when the lights change, they set off in a cloud of smoke. I just set off normally. I don't need to prove anything. Yeah.
I think with our cars too, like from my perspective, I watch our guys hand form these cars. Like, they're just artists, and we put so much love into every single car that we handcraft that hours and hours and hours of you know, hammering and making these beautiful works of art. And I know that our owners really respect how much time and attention to detail it takes to make these, let alone to own these machines. To give
you an idea, like that Bruce would have hand formed just that little bit there to make that nice and tidy. It's a bit dirty at the moment, and things like to give me a bit more space in the wheel well is like a nicely hand formed divot from a clutch foot. So the work that went into this is absolutely insane. You know, and compared to the other company I'm talking about at the start of the call, you know, and that comes with money, right? Like this build was not cheap, and would not be cheap today at all, because everything's gone up in price.
Compared to a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, it's really cheap though, isn't it, Rowan? You're getting pretty great performance.
It would murder a Ferrari as well. Absolutely murder it. Yeah.
And looks infinitely cooler on the curb, doesn't it?
Well, I think we're all slightly biased.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite have the appreciation for how much work goes into it. Like, you conceptually know how much work goes into something, but until you actually see Roy's, which is probably a little segue to why there's a little logo on the wall.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot about even mentioning that. So in the process of getting this car,
is that your garage or is that your living room? Because you've got carpet down.
It's trust me, it's the garage. It's the garage.
Wow, mine's nothing like that.
Neither is mine.
Seems to be the thing now with a lot of modern house builds in New Zealand. Like, the garages are built into the houses, and you get this nice carpet. In the process of getting the car built, like, I started getting the first sort of like Ida would send me here's some photos and email this week of what was going on, and I thought, oh, this could be done a whole lot better. Not just anything
Thanks,
wrong.
Rowan.
No. In terms of systems, I'm like, why isn't there a system for collating all of these photos and videos? Because you want like a timeline of your build. So in the process of getting this car built, I ended up building a software system called Global Workshop, which allows car and now boat and warbird companies, of all things, to keep their owners informed via an app that lets the boys on the factory floor easily take photos and videos. Ida can then go and approve it, and then instantly go to the owners and their own sort of client portal and apps. So going through this car, I've ended up building a software company that is now getting used by some of the best in the industry. So the likes of Eagle, we just put their logo up on our website 3 months ago. Eagle E-Types over in the UK. main market is the UK. So we've got a bunch of restoration and resto mod and fabrication companies now using it, and it's going through to full workshop software. So project time, job management, which is quite cool. So this car has ended up kind of changing the direction of a few things for me. So Global Workshop.
I was going to say, just from ordering a Fraser, you're now into software and developing software for other people to use. That's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So
have you got a link that you could send to Jim that we can put up in this post once it goes up on 7 Spot?
You mean one like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Easy.
There we go. Jim is always one step ahead of me. He annoys me.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, so actually that's one of the first photos was a company called Retro Power, who they, which you saw in one of those photos there, they do these amazing resto mods. And so if you haven't seen their channel, go subscribe to Retro Power, because they do a weekly kind of what's going on in the factory, which is, if you like this stuff, you'd love that. Like some Dawn Trader who do Formula One and IndyCar restorations, all sorts. So, which has been quite cool, quite a cool little journey. So,
absolutely,
we'll have a look at that.
Absolutely.
But I wonder if it'd make any sense to have a look at the good people at Fraser Sports Cars as well. I think if people are interested in starting their own Fraser adventure, they may want to go to this page and then have a look, and then give Ida a call.
Oh, thanks, Jim. That would be wonderful.
And I'll go on record and say, like, the Fraser experience was awesome. They are unique. What they say and what is true is they're unique to the owners. So while there's base kits and base packages, ultimately no Fraser is the same as another. Everybody chooses their particular types of engines, and then kind of as you're going through the process, what is the level of fit and finish you want. The work that went on in here is just incredible.
It's basically bespoke engineering, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I always say, and a lot of us always say it as well, that a kit car is never finished, because you get it on the road. You think, well, I might upgrade that, I might do this, might do that. So it's never-ending story
until you run out of money.
Yeah.
You just buy smaller bits.
Aside from
by the way, Joe, I put my 2 boys up for sale.
Well, I think there's a few of us who've got our Frasers done who are actually like, we got the level that we wanted.
Yeah.
Like out of the factory, don't need to do anything more, no upgrades, no nothing, and you're just that's it. That's the car I want, and you don't have to fiddle it, right? Like this.
Yeah.
There's a couple of teething problems which you'd expect on a build of this nature. Like you can't do single shot. But I haven't sit here and gone, I think I should upgrade this and I think I should upgrade that. It's just perfect, and dealing with the factory is awesome, and they become mates, and so you become part of the Fraser family.
It's the Fraser experience, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's quite different, quite unique, and wouldn't trade it for the world. What I did and what I got out of it, and lifelong friends with the factory. So
I will say this as the fly on the wall in a different country. At 7 Spot, we have a lot of Fraser people, and they are quite universal in 2 things. The Fraser experience that comes from the factory, having their car made, and then they're so fiercely proud of what they've got. They are a wonderful community unto themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as Rowan said, and I echo, so many people have dreamt about owning a car like this their entire lives, or most of their adult life. So if you have a dream, we just love fulfilling that. There's nothing better than fulfilling people's dreams. So we feel very fortunate to do what we do.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'd love to stay on forever. Carey, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Rowan's covered it pretty much. I would like to say that the whole experience of dealing with Frasers has always been really good.
Yeah.
As you know, my car is so much different from Rowan's car, but there's lots of other people with really good cars, and they are all different. We've all had a hand in them, different levels of input and skill in our skill, like my skill, not the Fraser guys. And you can always fall back on them if you don't know something, or just drop the car in. They've been really, really good to deal with. Yeah, everybody knows everybody else. There's Fraser guys, all over, all over New Zealand and Australia. But everybody sort of knows, and you keep track of the cars. Like Jed's car's just been sold. It'd be interesting to find out where that's gone on to. So.
And I'm going to bring Ida back in. And I am going to say, Ida, thank you so much for making the time. I know that you've got a busy household and you've got a family as well as a business. So thank you so much. I'm going to put the links to the Global Workshop and, of course, to Fraser Cars in the description part of this video. But I wanted to say thank you personally. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having us. And it's just so exciting to speak to our Fraser owners. It always is. So nice to see you guys. Thank you. And nice to meet you, Jim, and you, John. Appreciate having you.
I'm gonna bring Rowan. Rowan, lean back in. Lean back in. That was perfect.
All right.
Well, you got a good torso shot there. You have to lean over a little bit. There we go. Even better.
Are you going to start it up?
There we
go.
There you go.
Are we going to fire it up before we go?
Oh shit! Okay, yes we are. Hang on.
Or have I just made that awkward?
No. We'll fire it up. Hang on.
Do I have to turn my volume down now then?
No, he's got the boring muffler on now, so you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Boring muffler.
Bit controversial. I like them loud.
Absolutely.
Don't die of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Feel posh.
Oh yeah.
That
So I
sounds
can't hear
lovely.
it playing,
Lovely.
and now I have to clean the cupboards because I'm going to get in trouble.
So
Yes.
everyone, and John included, I'm going to say you've given us the better part of an hour. We've been going for 51 minutes. And I'm going to say thanks a lot to everybody. It's absolutely fabulous. This is their first opportunity to chat to some Fraser people, and I know there's going to be more opportunities to chat. So who knows? You might get called back.
Thanks for having us.
All right, guys.
It's been brilliant speaking to you guys. Thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you.
So, guys, thanks an awful lot. And what I always say at the end is we will see you at 7 Spot.
Yeah, be seeing you.
Cheers.
Thank you.